Hey everybody, it's Mr. Jones and Miss Stokes. Okay, coming to you to read aloud our next assignment for this week on Google Classroom. It is the Ghana, Mali, and Songhai readings. Okay, so when we're done reading, you'll scroll all the way to the bottom like Miss Stokes is, and there are questions for you to answer. Okay, don't forget to do those. All right, type them directly into the document. Okay, when you turn in the document, we'll be able to scroll down and see your answers. Okay, all right.
Page 4. So make sure you answer them on page 4.
Make sure you do that. Okay. All right, starting at the top, the Empire of Ghana. Okay, so the Kingdom of Ghana, also known as Ouagadougou or Ouagadougou, was the earliest known empire of Western Sudan and was founded by a king of the Soninke people. Europeans and Arabs mistakenly named it Ghana, which means ruler. The first historical records of this nation are from the end of the 8th century, but it probably came into being long before that. Oral records maintain that it emerged by the 7th century and had over 144 kings. Modern-day Ghana has no historical connection to the medieval kingdom.
All right, kings. The rulership of Ghana was matrilineal, which means that the sister of the king gave birth to the new ruler. The bloodline of the royal family was continued throughout its women. The king did not rule his state alone, but was helped by a people's council whose members came from all levels of society. This type of social organization shows that Ghana's political system was well developed because it included citizens and didn't rely on the guidance of one single person.
Beautiful. Okay, let's go to economy and industry. This kingdom had a very advanced system of administration and taxation because traders had to travel through its lands to carry goods like gold and salt to and from North Africa to the southern parts of West Africa. The state's economy was dynamic and helped to expand the kingdom into an empire. It also had large armies and defeated smaller states around it who had to pay tribute and taxes to its rulers. Although Ghana received great riches from its subordinates, it did not rely on them for its economic growth. Instead, it developed agriculture, iron smelting, stone masonry, carpentry, pottery, cloth manufacturing, and goldsmithing. The products they produced were traded along the trans-Saharan trade routes from Western Africa to Egypt and the Middle East in the north. They usually exchanged their goods for gold, salt, copper, and sold war captives as slaves. Okay, so really, they're getting money from a lot of different things. Okay, they're taxing those that live around them, okay, for being on the trade route, so they're getting money from that, but they're also doing a lot of things themselves. They're taking advantage of their resources, okay, to be able to bring in money as well, okay? Let's see, last section right here at the bottom, even though, okay? So even though there are written records of Ghana, like in the Book of Routes and Kingdoms, by 11th century geographer Abu Adaid al-Bakri, the kingdom is still a mystery. North Africans call it the land of gold because gold was plentiful in the area, but the locations of its gold mines were kept secret to maintain control over them.
Okay, now we're going to talk about the religion and decline. So I'm right here, okay? It says, although the people of Ghana protected their good relations with the Muslim traders, allowed Muslims to live in its cities, and even encouraged Muslim advisors to help on the royal court with its administration of legal issues, the kingdom never converted to Islam. The Muslim religion had been the main faith of northern Africa since the 8th century, and Ghana's northern neighbors were dedicated believers. These Muslims called themselves the Almoravids, and in 1076, in the 11th century, they declared a holy war or jihad, against Ghana under the leadership of Abdullah ibn Yassin. The kingdom of Ghana was destroyed and many of its people converted to Islam. After this, the once powerful state lost its military and commercial power. From 1180 to 1230, the southern part of what used to be known as Ghana was controlled by Sosa people, who were anti-Muslims, but the Empire of Ghana had come to an end. So we see that religion playing a role and that change in power, and how at first they just tried to include Muslim and tried not to force it on the people. And then you have new people that come in that either force a religion or they're anti-religion. So that really makes an impact on the culture.
All right, here we go. We're going to go to now the Mali Empire. Okay, so right up here at the top. The Kingdom of Mali existed between 1200 and 1500 and was one of the richest empires in Africa. It grew from a small state called Kangaba and was established by the Mandingo or Mandinka people. It became the greatest Muslim state in the Western Sudan. The Mandingo people were farmers and middlemen in the gold trade and had been conquered by the Kingdom of Ghana. When the small nation was again attacked, 11 of the king's 12 sons were killed, with only Sundiata Keita, a cripple, spared and exiled. At the end of the 11th century, the Soso people established a state in the southern parts of the former Kingdom of Ghana. Their rulership lasted for a short time and set the stage for the birth of the Kingdom of Mali, a legacy that is still passed on in oral traditions today.
Guys, I know we're throwing a lot of names at you guys and a lot of different kingdoms, but all of these are important because you see the succession and how different kingdoms come to power, rise and fall, and the different issues that arise, like religion, or when we were talking about earlier, successors, where they're talking about the different people who are in power. So you have different issues that arise with each kingdom. All right, kings. Sundiata Keita began ruling Mali in 1230 and called himself Mari Dajada, or Lion Prince. He commanded a mighty army and expanded his country by defeating neighboring kingdoms. Eventually, he divided the empire into provinces that were ruled by governors. He died in 1255. Now, keep in mind, that kind of sounds like Rome. Remember how Rome was divided into different sections and the Roman emperor placed different people in power? We see that happening here as well. So you know that even though it's Africa, and a lot of times we think of Africa as undeveloped, and we're seeing that they really did have complex, not only government systems, but they also had trading systems and things like that in place too. The kings of Mali Empire were called Manses, which means Lord, a title that was adopted by Sudita. The most famous of all was Sundita and his grandson Mansa Kankan Musa I, the first. So Mansa Musa, and we're going to talk a lot about Mansa Musa next week when you guys come in, and we're going to talk about how this man had riches, okay? Musa, who was in power from 1312 to 1337, was not the first Muslim ruler of Mali, but he became the most famous result of his Hajj, or pilgrimage, to Mecca, the holy city of Islam, in 1324 and 1325. His lavish display of riches and generosity drew the attention of the whole Islamic world and Europe. So on his pilgrimage, and we talked about this earlier, we talked about this in the Zoom this week, but he would just give away gold. Just give it away to people because he was so rich, he was so wealthy, so prosperous that he was very generous with his wealth. He brought 500 slaves and 500 golden staffs as well as gold to trade along the way. The enormous amounts of gold he had brought had serious economic results for the lands he passed through, especially Egypt, because the price of the precious metals dropped. His travels put Mali on the map, and soon the kingdom became legendary. Mansa Musa, that should be Musa, his image holding nuggets of gold was even used to indicate the areas on maps of Africa. During this time, Mali covered the area of the Atlantic Ocean to the salt plains in the north and the gold mines in the south. Timbuktu in Mali also became a center of learning, religion, and trade. Many important scholars visited the country, like Ibn Battuta, and the greatest of all Arab travelers and writers.
All right. Okay, here we go. Okay, more on economy and industry. Okay, for Mali. Okay, so the people of Mali farmed and traded and became rich from taking over control of the salt and gold trade that had been ruled by Ghana. The natural environment was ideal for planting cotton, peanuts, grains, and other crops, which fed the people. The inhabitants of Mali were Muslim, and because slavery was not forbidden by Islam, they also became wealthy through selling slaves. Mali was immensely rich in gold and traded with North Africans, the Middle East, and Europe. Okay, so a lot of farming going on, and there was some slavery going on as well. Okay, I'll read this too, Stokes, because you just read a lot. Okay, so decline. All right, when Ibn Battuta visited Mali in the 14th century, shortly after Mansa Musa's death, he was surprised and impressed by how strictly order was enforced in the kingdom, and he even visited the king. After the death of its king, Mali lacked a ruler that could lead such a large and powerful kingdom. The former ruler's grandsons fought over his throne, and far-off provinces of the empire began breaking away, while enemies attacked it in its weakened state. In 1534, the ruler Mansa Suleiman asked Portuguese colonizers at the coast for help, but they refused. Mali shrank to the original size of Kongaba by 1645. Mali finally collapsed with the rise of the kingdom of Songhai, but no empire ever had the power and wealth the kingdom of Mali had once held. Okay?
All right, the kingdom of Songhai or Songhai developed from a community of fishermen who lived along the Niger River. And here's a map here. You can see that it comes all the way from Western Africa, and then goes all the way into the southern. Okay. They were skilled canoeists during the 9th century. They became part of the state of Songhai, began trading with Muslim traders in Gao, which then became part of the kingdom. The kingdom of Songhai grew from the ashes of the kingdom of Mali and was the last kingdom in the western Sudan. During its domination of the area, Mali had defeated the small kingdom of Gao in 1325. The city of Gao, the capital of the kingdom, had been occupied by the Songhai before Mansa Musa from Mali had arrived. And as Mali began to decline, Musa's death during the 14th century, Songhai began to rise around 1464. The leader that inspired this rise was Sunni Ali, or Ali Bear, who conquered most of the remaining Mali Empire, including the city of Timbuktu. During the next 100 years, the Songhai Empire reached its peak as Islam as a religion, and Islamic learning was actively promoted by the king. By the end of the 15th century, Songhai had replaced Mali, but was defeated by a large Moroccan force at the end of the 16th century. By the end of the 700 years of domination of the Western Sudan by centralized and powerful black kingdoms.
Okay, here we go. Kings. All right. Great Songhai leaders like Sunni Ali Bear, who was killed in a Muslim rebellion, and his successor, Askia Muhammad Touré, who ruled from 1492 to 1528, built this empire into the most powerful in West Africa. It was larger than both Mali and Ghana and introduced organized government to the area. Sunni Ali aggressively built Gao into the kingdom of Songhai by using his cavalry and very mobile fleet of ships. He conquered Timbuktu and the harbor of Jean, or Djinn, both important Malian cities. Sunni Ali was replaced by Askia Muhammad Touré, who established a new ruling dynasty, the Askia. He continued Sunni Ali's campaign to expand the kingdom by taking control of important oases in the Sahara Desert and finally defeated Mali. He followed this with further campaigns to conquer more neighboring kingdoms. He centralized his government by introducing a large bureaucratic force to oversee and administer his kingdom. Muhammad Touré was innovative and improved trading by standardizing weights, measures, and currency, blending the different Songhai cultures into one national culture. He was also a devout Muslim and replaced Songhai administrators with Arab Muslims to spread Islam through his empire. Muslim judges called Qadi ran his legal system on Muslim principles. Most of the people living in cities embraced Islam. In rural areas where 97% of the Songhai people lived, traditional African religions dominated.
So you see all of the different changes and things that he made to really increase the power of his empire. But understand too that still religion is playing a large role in this, and he's putting people in power in order to spread that Muslim religion. It says, like the kings of Ghana and Mali, before its Songhai became rich through trade. There was a privileged class of craftsmen, and slaves were mostly used as farm workers. Trade only really thrived under Muhammad Toure, with cola nuts, gold, and slaves as the main export. These goods were exchanged for textiles, horses, salt, and luxury goods. Leo Africanus, a special Moroccan traveler and writer, visited Gao and noted that there was a very wealthy ruling class. The houses there are very poor, except for those of the king and his couriers. The merchants are exceedingly rich, and large number of Negroes continually come to buy clothes brought from the Barbie or Moroccan and Europe. Okay, so he's talking about how kings and the king's men are very rich, but overall it is very, very poor, and there's a large number of slaves that are being bought and sold.
Okay, here we go. Now the decline, all right, of Songhai. So Songhai declined as a result of internal political struggles, but its mineral wealth also drew the attention of invaders. The Songhai Empire had become too large to control, while changes in the environment caused droughts and disease. Even though its army was 35,000 men strong, some of the inhabitants started to rebel against the king. This made the empire vulnerable, and Morocco, which was one of its territories, revolted to gain control of its own gold mines and the sub-Saharan gold trade. After the Moroccan army attacked in 1591, the Songhai Empire collapsed. In 1612, the Songhai cities fell to anarchy, and the greatest empire in African history disappeared.
Okay, so that was all the information about the three empires. We covered all of these different questions. Kind of each paragraph more or less covers each one of these questions. If you have any questions for us, let us know. We're always here. All right, bye guys.
See ya.